So isn't the ideal for every one of our clients, Bill, every one of your clients, Jared, every one of my clients, to live a life and design a life that they not only never have to retire from, but they never even have to take a vacation from, because it's just going from something that's wonderful to the next to the next. It's a life by design.
Welcome to Dental Momentum, the podcast dedicated to lively discussions on business and financial strategies tailored for dental business owners. At Duckett Ladd, we're committed to transforming your business journey and supporting you at every stage. Join us as we delve into the keys to long-term practice success, from cutting-edge accounting and strategic tax planning to personalized business strategies. Together, let's propel your dental practice forward with unstoppable momentum.
Man, Bill, love that episode. High energy in that one, right?
Man, no doubt. No doubt. Mark, the guy you'll introduce here in a second, just such a great guy. And he has high energy. He is always going. And it was fun to unpack his journey.
No, super. I mean, just what he's done. I mean, hearing his journey, where he came from and where he's at. Just a super fun episode to listen to, full of all kinds of insights for sure.
Yeah, I think one thing that really jumped out at me, Jared, is this is a guy who is willing to bet on himself. And he did it multiple times throughout his journey. I think it's a great lesson for people to understand that sometimes you just got to step out on a limb and bet on yourself. And he did it, and he's done well because of that.
No, I agree. And I don't know if you're like me, Bill. I listen to a lot of podcast episodes on, I don't know if you call it super speed, but put it on 1.5 or 2 times speed. I don't know if I do that on this one. Leave it on that one time. Mark speaks really quick, and it's keep it on 1 time so you guys will enjoy. But here's our conversation, guys, with Mark Murphy with Northeast Sequoia Private Client Group. You guys are going to love it. Enjoy. All right, Mark, man, I got to ask. First time we jumped on a call and started talking to each other, introing each other and learned about each other. I got off that call and I'm like, my goodness, this gentleman has so much passion and so much energy to just help people. Mark, where's that come from? Like, where does that start?
You know what I say? It doesn't take a lot of energy to be yourself. It takes a lot of energy to be other people. So the idea is you can have enormous energy, enormous reserves of energy when you're just doing what you want to do. And so that's why, the Japanese have this great expression called ikigai. And I look through that prism of those 4 questions, meaning whenever, like, if I was ever, I'm at the age now where a lot of my friends are having their kids call me for advice, just like our clients are calling all of us for advice, like calling you guys for advice, calling me for advice. But I talk about the kids, and I always say to them, here's 4 questions. You can't answer yes to 1 or 2 or 3 or even all 4. It's got to be a hell yeah to all 4. And the first question is, am I passionate about this? The second question is, am I good at it? I'm passionate about hockey. I'm a big New York Ranger fan, but I can't skate, so I'm not good at it. The third is, does the world need that product or service? And the fourth is, can I get paid to do it? And if it's a hell yeah to all 4, I think you should move forward. And that, I think it's pretty simple. I think people overcomplicate it sometimes, or do what they think they have to do, or do what they think they're supposed to do, or and don't really really take stock of what's possible.
That's a great framework to ask yourself those questions. But we all know the journey is not super simple, though, Mark. I mean, it probably didn't. You didn't have those data points when you started out, though, right? I mean, tell us how you even got into this business in the first place, and maybe tell the audience real quickly what you do and then how you got into that.
I'm a key business strategist, critical thinker, financial advisor to entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial thinking people. And we have our biggest vertical is in dentistry, which is what we all share. Yeah. And it's just been this great journey, improving the lives of all of those people for the last 38 years. But the interesting thing about it, I think you're absolutely right, is because I always say I grew up dumb and broke in Suffern, New York, and when I came out of the Kelley School, Kelley Business School at Indiana University, which I am proud to say I've got 3 of my 5 kids there, and I'm on the board at Indiana, which is my happy place, Bloomington, Indiana. But the reason I'm so grateful about that education is that I came out of that school, and when they offered me $1,000 a month, which, by the way, wasn't a salary, it was a draw against commissions. It was $1,000 a month more than I was making, so I took the job. And the only thing that I did know is that I did know that I couldn't be outworked. And I always came down is that that people always say you got to play. They always got to say you got to try to win with the cards you have, not the cards you wish you had.
Yeah.
And so at that point, when I was 22 years old, 23 years old, all I had was a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and I just couldn't get outworked.
And what was this job? What were you doing right out of school?
The firm I am right now. I
right.
was a financial advisor, and a year later I started Northeast Private Client Group, and we never looked back. Started our own firm, and it was what that was the great. It was just you just knew what you had and what you could run with. And I also thought the other thing is that I always thought that I was a good listener. That in our office we always say the good ones tell, the great ones ask. And so to me, I just was always listening, always trying to learn, always took everything as an opportunity to learn and get better. And if you're reasonably smart and you're willing to work hard, I mean, America's a pretty great place.
Well, let me back you up. I got to go even further back, though, Mark. You were born in New York. Did I hear you say that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a New Yorker with Midwestern sensibilities.
Exactly. How in the world did you go from New York and wind up in Indiana? And what was that like? That had to be
Hoosier, right?
a little bit of a culture shock.
My father, by the way, like every good Irish Catholic kid, I got into the University of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And I'm dating myself here with the numbers, but Notre Dame was $13,000 a year. And my father had a heart attack Christmas Day my senior year of high school, and the money dried up. So Indiana was $6,000, and I got a $2,500 academic scholarship because of my SAT scores. And so I could afford, by having a day job in the summer in a factory and bouncing at night, to pay my education. And so I'm eternally grateful. And that's why I have such great memories and great gratitude for Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana.
That's awesome. Did you say you were bouncing at night?
Yeah.
Wow.
All
That's
the
where
weight
it
that
started,
I had on
right?
my stomach was in my chest and shoulders back in those days. You just have to imagine it. Just move. It's all there. It's just in different places.
Well, what you didn't answer the question though, Mark. Tell me about the culture shock going from New York to Indiana.
Back then, I think that first of all, I think the advantage I have is for a guy who grew up in New York. I don't think I have a New York accent, so I got a pass there. But I think that I don't know. I think I might have been so obtuse, Bill, that I probably didn't notice the difference in that group. It seemed pretty. It was not a big culture shock, other than the world seemed pretty tiny for some of the kids in the Midwest. That they were not.
Yeah.
That I thought that some of the Midwestern kids, especially back then in those days, before the internet, before everything else that was there, I thought they were a little bit sheltered. They didn't have a lot of what I'll call street smarts. And I think one of the advantages I've always had is that I've been reasonably book smart, but I think I also been street smart as well.
Yeah.
Common sense is one of the most uncommon things that's out there.
So did you say you got out of school at Indiana, right? You graduated, you started you took a job, $1,000 a month draw against commission. And did you just say a year later you started Northeast?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not much time to get your feet wet, Mark. I mean, you just went all in.
I just think, that I think that the number one thing an entrepreneur has to do is to protect his or her confidence. And I think hubris is the ruination of all who have it. So once you start to believe in your own BS, the world has a way of telling you you're not all that. So I think it has to be like humility and confidence. But I think ultimately it's about belief. And when I started this firm, I thought we'd be successful, or at least I hoped we would be. I thought we'd make money. At least I thought we would. But I thought this was my vehicle to make other people's lives better. And so, one of the reasons I've connected so deeply with you guys is because I sensed a kinship and a group that it wasn't just about other things that I didn't think were important. It was about making a difference in the lives of the people we touch. And that's why I connected very closely, Jared, to you and Bill.
Well, let me ask you to extrapolate out that comment about protecting your confidence. Are you saying so that it doesn't become hubris, or what does that mean exactly when you say that?
Well, first of all, I think part of it is like, please get over yourself. You're not all that, and I think the other thing too is as you get more successful, more people are, telling you you're all that when, you know where you came from and you're not,
Yeah.
you're not that. But I don't think it's about hubris. I think it's more about um, having a grounding to be open to people's ideas so you can learn, but also not letting people dissuade you. Sometimes sometimes in life, it's sort of like that crabs in a bucket. Like if one crab's trying to get out, but the other crabs will drag them down. Sometimes not people, are not always happy for you when you have great deals of success, or people are trying to talk you into out of it, trying to lower your expectations, or trying to, give you excuse. That's okay. You've had a tough life, or that's okay. You didn't come from a lot of money, or that's okay. Like people are making excuses for people all the time, and I just thought that wasn't for me. I thought there was no blaming, no complaining, no excuses for me. And I just was going to, and it just had a mindset that it was either going to happen hard or it was going to happen easy, but it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was going to be indefatigable. And you're going back really back because, my father, when he had that heart attack, he got knocked down. He didn't die, but he stayed down for the rest of his life. And so the lesson I learned from that is you just got to, life is going to knock you down. You just got to be prepared to get up one more time than you're knocked down. And you just got to keep getting up and keep getting up. And, and then you can have this incredible life that we all have, today.
Yeah. So what's going through your head, right, a year out, and you're getting ready to start your own business, right? Start Northeast. Like what's going through your head? Like fear or like calculated risk? Like what's going through your head to start it?
I think, one of the things you'll get a kick out of this. I was one of the people lucky enough to get one of the first American Express black cards that came out. And I had to laugh because in 1986, if I didn't pay that day, they were taking my green card away from me. So I was, so I guess and it wasn't because I didn't want to pay the bill. I just didn't have the money to pay the bill. But I think it's, I think that, when there was a study done in 1974 that said that 5% of the world are entrepreneurial or entrepreneurs. And they did a recent study on that. And they found out with all of the education, technology improvements and everything, 5% of the people are still entrepreneurs. So I think the world, there's enough of us. There's enough of us to make a difference in the world. But there's still only 5% of us that are entrepreneurs. And I thought that ultimately this was an opportunity for me to card. So it wasn't a hubris like arrogance. It was in a place that I was just going to work as hard as I needed to do to have the success that I needed to have. And I think it was that I think that the part that's missing a lot is it's focus, but it's also, I think I had a great deal of focus, but I also had discipline. And I was also okay falling in love with the mundane. Not that I was willing to do that forever, but in the beginning, you have to be able to also fall in love with the mundane as well. So it's focus, discipline, and falling in love with the mundane. And that's what, entrepreneurs need to do in the beginning to be successful, in my opinion.
So when you look at that statistic and you say 5%, you say, well, there's business owners all over the place. How do you define entrepreneur and differentiate it between just a business owner?
Well, and by the way, I think people can have entrepreneurial thinking. It comes from education from guys like us, guys like you, guys like me, to go do that. But I think that it's very clear to me. Most people who own a business think they're entrepreneurs, but most of the people that own businesses have bought themselves a job. They are getting paid for what they do, not what they know. And so one of the tricks I have with people, and we can talk about this, about a life by design. But one of the things you talk about is it's okay to say, hey, I want to be, by the time I'm 40 or by the time I'm 30 or by the time I'm 60, I want to be in a position that I have enough money to retire. So I think that's a perfectly natural thing for everybody to take a look at. But having said that, I think true entrepreneurs always want to be in creation and fascination mode. And so the idea is that if you're really an entrepreneur, they don't talk about retirement. They talk about maybe having enough money to retire, but they don't talk about retirement. They talk about trying to, and you also ask an entrepreneur, do you have a business life or a personal life? And they say, I just have a life. I go from something I love to something I love more to something I love more than. I'm in my creation and fascinating mode of my business, and then I go to my kid's soccer game, and then we go on vacation, and then I go read a book or I go to the gym. I'm just going from one thing I love to the next to the next. So isn't the ideal for every one of our clients, Bill, every one of your clients, Jared, every one of my clients, to live a life and design a life that they not only never have to retire from, but they never even have to take a vacation from, because it's just going from something that's wonderful to the next to the next. It's a life by design.
Yeah, that's good. When you jumped off, started that new deal, was there ever a moment, I'm sure there was, but you got into it and like, gosh, man, I don't know if I should have done this, or maybe I should go back to where I was. I mean, did you ever have any fear of like, did I bite off too much?
I remember, this sounds like a therapy session. I'm going to have to lay down to talk to you guys, to talk to you guys. But I remember going home Labor Day, 1988. It sounds like ridiculous for some what the numbers, but the numbers back then were big numbers to me now, at that pace, and I went home Labor Day of 1988, and I was $20,000 in credit card debt. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't feeling great about myself. I'd been in it for about 2 years, and I was doing okay, but it wasn't great. And I basically just went home, and I just said to myself, I'm going to give this till the end of the year. I've got an education. I'm smart. If I can't get this done, but I'm going to give it everything I have for the next 4 months. And, I've told the story before, but then in the next 4 months, I made it. Back then was a lot of money. I made $127,000 in the next 4 months.
Heck yeah.
And I never looked back after that. It was just, the right people started showing up in my life, and it just, and I don't know what it was other than, I was, that I view failure as just another form of market research. And I view failure as just one step closer to success. And I just kept using it as an opportunity to learn. And I knew we were close. And I knew I just had to do what I needed to do to go make it happen. And I sort of lived that way forever, and encourage people to be the architects of their own future as well.
So presumably when you broke off, or when you started Northeast, it was probably you were the one and only employee. I'm assuming. I could be wrong there.
Well, by the end of the first year, I was able to get up to a shared assistant. And I always thought to myself, how am I ever going to fill up an entire administrator's day? We're now tripling our space again. Next month.
Well, let's walk through that early part of that journey, though. When you do start adding employees, and 1 year out of school, that's still pretty green. All due respect. I mean, you probably had never learned how to deal with people, how to hire people, who to look for, what qualities to look for. I mean, how'd you build out the processes to do that and do it well, or has it just evolved over time?
I think it's hard to go back. Like, I'm starting to break out because I'm going through puberty again, having this discussion with you guys. But I think that the idea is that ultimately, I think if you want to grow your business, I mean, and by the way, I don't think hard work is important. I don't know too many people that have been successful at working hard, at least at some point in their life. But I think that hard work's not enough, because you could be the smartest guy and you can grind and grind and grind. And maybe you'll grow your business over time 1x or 2x or 3x. But if you want to grow your business 5x or 20x or 100x or 1,000x, it's all about collaboration. And so the idea is that what I think the magic bullet for me, Bill, was I sort of decided back then that I wanted to be a hero to entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial thinking people. And I built a business about collaborating with people that wanted to be a hero to the same group. And so immediately the clients saw that entrepreneurial synergy, and they saw that they could get that experience by working with us. And I was able to collaborate with some great folks. And at that time in 1988, a couple of good folks showed up in my life. I had a lot of youth and enthusiasm, but I found a guy with a little bit of gray hair in his 60s who ran an actuarial firm, and I was out there trying to get appointments with people that wanted to do pension businesses back then. And all of a sudden, things took off. I didn't really have a business plan or a model. I just had confidence without arrogance.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, the power of collaboration, you just said, that's what allowed you to scale. I mean, did you just start that at the very, very beginning? Like, start picking out the who's, like, who do I need to get with, connecting dots? It
just became a natural thing. And I think the other thing is somebody, like, I don't know about you guys, but I always find I'm always at my best when I'm serving others. And so the idea is that I want to, I mean, I can be a pretty mean guy if you try to mess with me. But I said, other than that, if you don't try to steal my house or sleep with my wife, I think we're good. But I think I just think that I think with that is I always want a class 3 experience. So meaning, if you're a collaboration partner, I want, I mean, any business to me, any relationship I want is a class 3 experience. And what I mean by that, it's got to be great for the client first. It's got to be great for you second, and it's got to be great for us third.
That's
And if we
right.
can do all three of those things, well, why would we not want to do that? Why would we not want to, I grew up in the 70s and 80s with sitcoms that always ended at 30 minutes with a happy ending. Why shouldn't life have a happy ending?
Yeah. So let's keep on that journey, knowing that eventually we're going to get to the point where you have a big component of your client base, which are dentists. So how did that vertical or component kick in? When did you start putting some focus there?
Well, we had some dentists, but it was not a major part of our business. Probably I want to say this is about 2000, around 2000, 2001, something like that. And I, uh, I was there was a company that you guys are now aware of. It's the largest executive coaching, practice management, communications company in the world for
Yeah.
dentists, Fortune Management. And I like telling this story because they were referring another financial advisor, and one of the founders of Fortune had a client in New Jersey, and I was their financial advisor. And they said, "Well, we want to bring in this other firm. Let's bring your financial advisor in, being me. We're going to fire him." And within about 20 minutes, he realized that there was something different there, and he said, "Hey, you need to see our CEO." And I literally flew out because I was so busy. I flew out on my 40th birthday to California and met with Bernie Stoltz, who's the CEO. I'm now, as you guys know, I'm on the board and a significant shareholder at Fortune. And we sat down that day and mapped a plan out that day to help people create multi-generational wealth. And because we were both frustrated about a few things, we were frustrated about two things. One is that I had been doing some work with some NFL players, and they only had 3-year careers with non-guaranteed, benefits, and dentists had 20, 30, 40, 50-year careers, and most of them weren't creating any real wealth, and none of them were creating multi-generational wealth. And they were going back to their same advisors and implementing the same failed strategies that got them where they were in the first place. And so we designed a company that that did that. And I collaborated with Fortune, and I've never looked back. And as I said, you just continue to ask good questions. You continue to learn. I can't believe that people pay me tens of millions of dollars to ask them questions. I mean, it's a crazy business. I mean, I think that's a business you're in too. People are paying you a lot of money to ask them questions. And so the idea just got learned. And I was pretty much doing back then what I'm doing now. I just wasn't doing it nearly as well. We've just continued to expand our capability and how we can add value to people's lives. And so, I think that one of the things why I'm so excited about the work we do together is the fact that the ultimate, the nirvana of a relationship or a collaboration to me is to play in a competition-free zone where that client or customer or patient or whatever you call the people you do business with can only find that experience by working with you.
Yeah. What from your perspective, working with all these dental practice owners, right, since 2001, what do most of them have? What are they doing wrong to create that multi-generational wealth? What are they not doing or not thinking clearly about it and that sort of thing?
They start out as with a job to be a surgeon, dental surgeon,
Mm-hmm.
and then they buy a business or own a business or become a partner in a business, and they don't have a CEO mentality. They're the de facto CEO of their company, but they're still with the mindset of a guy or a gal who's just in front of the chair drilling teeth, and everything else is an annoyance, or they're not putting the same care to their business that they do to the science of being a great dentist. They can have the perfect crown or the perfect implant or the perfect, whatever you'd like to say, and they take such pride in the scientific part of their business. Well, why are they not running their business in the same way and figuring out how to leverage and scale and to do all those things? And by the way, and I think a lot of it is because they just don't have access to great advice. And I think once they have great access to advice to guys like you, I think the world changes, and then the impossible becomes possible and the possible becomes certain. And they also realize that they can have a better life by doing that, and that not only will they make a lot more money, but their quality of life will improve as well, because they don't have something that's just dependent upon their two hands.
Well, right now, I mean, Mark, you're CEO of Northeast, and you may have had that title but not really had that role in the past. And a lot of doctors, like you said, they'll call themselves that, but they really haven't evolved to the point where they are truly functioning in what we would deem to be a CEO type role. I mean, how did that evolve for you? I mean, presumably you were initially someone who actually traded their time for dollars and had to evolve into the mindset of focusing more on the business. What was your journey to get to that point where you realized that and were able to put the time there?
I would say a couple of things. One is good leaders create followers. Great leaders create other great leaders.
Yeah.
And I think that the idea is that that was a mantra that I understood. And I started to understand as you started to work more and more and learn more about other businesses, that you learned that it was something I discovered by working with people over years, that they were getting paid. The difference between having a business, the question you would ask is, if to myself is, if I went into the witness protection program for 2 years, would my business thrive, much less survive?
Yeah.
And for most of us, the answer was no. And I thought of myself as an entrepreneur, Bill. But 20 something years ago, kind of halfway through my journey to this date in business, I look back and I go, well, I'm talking the talk and I'm advising people on that, but I didn't walk the walk myself. I was in a place 20 plus years ago where I had a really nice business. I was making a few $1 million a year. I had an organization was around my ability to attract clients, business, money, et cetera, but it was all dependent upon me. And so I said, well, if I'm going to really walk the walk and talk the talk and really help people create multi-generational wealth in this life by design, I got to do it for myself first. And so the idea is everything we've done is that one of the reasons that I feel like I'm uniquely qualified, the reason I think you guys are uniquely qualified to advise business owner CEOs like we do, is because we are ourselves. We make the same decision. We make payroll every 2 months. I'm making decisions on eating, $1 million of rent so we can triple our space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make that decision as soon as we get off this Zoom.
Yeah.
But I've got to eat $1 million of rent. All these kinds of things that you've got to do to go run a business. And I think part of it is, you're right, I think it's a journey. But I think the real issue for people is that they don't have the right advice, that clearly, that I believe in loyalty. I'm like the most loyal dog you want to have. And so I am loyal to a fault with people. But I also realize that in business and in life, most of the people that got you where you are not the people that are going to take you where you need to go. So like, whether, it's like, I'll use in your word, like they have an accountant that's done a nice job that helped them start up in business and they're doing well, but now they've got 4 dental practices and a real estate business, and they're still getting the same advice from that startup accountant that was so helpful to them 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They just don't have the horsepower to be able to help get them to the next level. And it's the same thing in the financial services business. You want people, if you want to create multi-generational wealth, you better be around people that have not only have done it, but also have the ability to give you the advice to go get that done. And I think, but it's very hard, because I think most of us are pretty loyal. We're loyal to people that have worked hard for us. And oftentimes these people are not stupid, or they're not, not bad people. They're great people, but they don't have the horses to get you where you need to go. And so people are just willing to settle for mediocre, or stop progressing. They're looking in your vernacular, they're still looking for people to do the compliance and tax work, where they need a fractional CFO or a key business strategist like you guys are.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so different about you guys. I mean, you guys are so ingrained in your client's business. I mean, their business in and out, and are that key strategist partner, that's right there with them. I mean, that's to me what sets you guys apart, but with a lot of other things. But I want you to go into a little bit, you said it a couple times, but this life by design, right? Dive into that a little bit. What does life by design mean? You talked about it just a little bit, but go more in depth and explain it.
Well, first, again, I said to it, it's a life that is so amazing, your business and personal life, that you never have to retire or even take a vacation from it. But here's a little trick I'd ask people to do, and I do it myself probably. I say I do it twice a year. I probably do it once a year, once or twice a year. Is you get a piece of paper out and you put a T at the top. And on the left side of the column, I write all the things I'd be doing in retirement that I'm not doing right now. And on the right side, I write all the things I hate about my business. And every year or every twice a year, I try to add stuff to the left and get rid of stuff on the right. So, it's like, to give you an example, I haven't handled a piece of paper in probably 15 years. I haven't driven a car to work in 30 years. I haven't opened a piece of mail in 25 years. I shake hands, I kiss babies, I build relationships, I close deals, I work in the intellectual property of the firm. I've been able to delegate the other stuff that bores me at this point, but with people who that's their unique ability. I had to do it when I started because there was nobody else. So I had a very small team.
Yeah.
And so now it's about highest and best use, not only of my time, but that's part of the leverage of scaling is I want everybody to work in their unique ability.
So when you tell someone that, the inhibition that they're going to have or the friction they're going to get in their brains is, well, but that costs money. It costs money to hire someone to drive you. It costs money to find somebody who does the filing. I can just do it for myself. It's cheaper. I can save that money. That's a mindset that you have to overcome, right?
It's certainly a mindset. I think there's some people that are very transactional in that place, but I think here's the mindset. The first thing I go back to that exercise is if you're doing the things you want to do, let's say you're 45 years old. If you're doing the things you want to do and not doing the things you don't want to do, who retires from that? Why wait till 65 to retire? Why not retire at 45?
Yeah.
But I also think the other thing is that that's where I think you guys come in. And I think to me, I think life is very simple. I try to be as black and white as I can. I think people try to make things in a very nuanced, complex world. Anytime we can create simplicity, we should. And so for me, it's very clear. There's two things in my life. There's expenses and there's investments. If you're an expense, you're always on the chopping block.
Yeah.
And if you're an investment, as long as I can get at least a 4 or 5 to 1 return on my money, I'm going to do it. It's not, as an example, I've had a driver for the last 30 years. It's not because I'm some fancy guy. I grew up dumb and broke in Suffolk, New York. It's so that I am lightning quick at returning clients' emails, phone calls. I have conference calls. I have Zooms in the car with Wi-Fi. I've got the ability to expand my day by not having to drive because I don't make a lot of money driving. I don't make a lot of money parking cars and getting gas tanks filled and doing things. Every minute of my day is productive by doing that. And it allows me to be really focused on, they go, how are you as busy as you are and can still get back to people lightning quick? Mm-hmm. Well, I might not have been able to do that had I not had a driver. Or, I remember having one of the first cell phones when the bills were like $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 a month. Yeah. People can't remember that, but I was able to, when some people had to wait till the next day to return their clients' phone calls, I was returning them within 5 minutes. I had a unique advantage on my competition when the RIM pager came in 1995, and I was able to do emails in my car when people would take them a couple of days to get back to clients. It always gave me a competitive advantage. So I looked at the landscape and figured if I could have that driver, it wasn't because I was fancy. It was so that I could, and sometimes even when when we were in New York City, I'll even have my driver pick up the clients and bring them to my office and bring them back so I can stay stationary.
Mm. Yeah.
This was before Zoom and before all that, before, all the technology, made a lot of that not as important.
Yeah. Do you still do this exercise every year? I mean, you've been doing this a while, every year. Do you still have some stuff that's on the right? Meaning things I want to try to get over to the left? Yeah,
there's some things, I that's why I keep saying to Lisa, I go, if we don't, I don't know if we should talk about that. I go, if we don't start flying private, the kids will. So,
right.
But again, my Midwestern sensibilities are, I don't want to waste money on a jet. So I'm a little bit, I have a Sybil complex there and, with these kinds of things. And, all the other thing too, is you want to go, you think you're all that because you have a jet or something. But I want to stay to my roots, but again, it's efficient. But again, the reason I have not done it was my kind of humbleness, but I couldn't justify it as a 4 or 5 to 1 return.
Yeah.
I couldn't, when you live in New York and you're close to 3 major airports, you can fly direct almost anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
For the most part, or most places in the world, it's not efficient to have spend $50,000 to fly to Florida for a business trip if you can spend $300. Mm-hmm. So I think part of it goes back to that set. Now, if having a private jet would allow me to make more money because of efficiency, I would do it, but it doesn't in my business. It may be in some other people's businesses. So I kind of look at it from that standpoint too. And then just the comfort level, the things you want to do. But I also think as an entrepreneur, I think one of the things where you get your credibility is you've got to still be hardworking. You get credibility from that. But the second thing is anybody in my organization knows I would never ask them to do anything that I wasn't prepared to do myself or had not done before. We have no luxury players in our
Yeah.
organization.
So
You know,
let me ask you this, Mark. One thing I've noticed about your group, and when I say your group, it's not just you, it's your team. Everybody that we interact with, it's like they have a innate drive to create this wow experience, this amazing client experience. And it feels systemic. It feels like that's very intentional. So is it intentional? Is it systemic, or has it just evolved kind of naturally?
it's been intention after the way a lot of great things happen, Bill, is it occurs after you get your ass kicked long enough. You figure a few things out. That it's not like we think we're pretty intelligent. We're reasonably intelligent. We're not geniuses. We don't have every answer. But I think the joke they say around here is, well, people say, how do you get people to work so hard? And I say that's easy. I go, if they don't work hard, they wouldn't be here. Would be one. But I think part of it is that in life, and I think like I hear in the dental field that that a lot of our clients are complaining about not being able to find great people, great doctors, great hygienists, great assistants, great anybody. And the magic to me is simple. You've got to pay people competitively, but you don't have to pay them the most. And the reason is because if they'll come for $1, they'll leave for $1. I don't want those kind of transactional people in my life.
Yeah.
But you got to pay them well. But the second is, as long as people are learning and growing, people generally don't leave an organization where they're learning and growing. So one of the things we try to do in our organization, the first couple of years, we want you to be great at your job. And then maybe in years 2 to 4 or 5, we want you to help mentor the brand new people, which helps not only the newbies, but if you want to learn a subject at a deep level, teach it to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing is, after 5 or 6 years, I want you to be an SME, a subject matter expert about something.
Yeah.
And so that everybody owns something. And the other thing is we try to create a culture and a community, because people can leave a job, but they have a hard time leaving a community. And we try to make sure that we've created, and very intentionally, a culture and community. Having said that, the other thing that you also have to do is we have core values, and we have core values. And the idea is that one of those core values, as you stepped on, is we want to create a wow experience, not an experience, but a wow experience for every client. That's what we try to do. And that's what people are programmed to do. And so if I was interviewing you today, Bill, for a job, and I'd say to you, hey, Bill, one of our core values is we want to create not only experience, but a wow experience for every client. If you're not totally jazzed about that, you're going to be miserable here.
Yeah.
And everybody outside my office is going to hate your guts. They're going to hate you. And so if you don't get people that want to do that, they self-select out, because, if you have people that, as Gino Wickman says, if you have people that get it, want it, and have capability, mm-hmm. and then they have your core values, that's the beginning of an unstoppable team. Absolutely. And so we've been very, Traction was a book that influenced me well as EOS. And mm-hmm. so the entrepreneurial operating system. And so that is a lot of those principles are the principles we run our company on.
Yeah. Are you a firm believer, Mark, when you're looking to bring on new people, that they either have a fire in their belly or they don't? Or do you think if somebody doesn't have fire, that can be created?
Oh, no, I don't think that, unless they're got COVID, and it's the worst day of their life, and they drag themselves in for an interview, with 103 fever, and they have no fire. I mean, I think people, I would ask you that question, Jared. What do you think?
I would agree with you. I would agree with you 100%.
Yeah. How can you be burned out when you never were on fire, right?
That's it.
No. But I think part of it is, I think that that the age-old question to me that I still haven't thought about in my own mind is, it's great to have people with experience, but oftentimes people with experience have a lot of bad habits that don't fit your organization. And so it's always like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do I want somebody that just has the raw skills and I want to teach it to them and then have to be patient until they grow into those skills? Or do I want somebody that's got the experience, but maybe not the experience that I want them to have necessarily? And we've kind of settled that, that maybe it's probably a hybrid of both. You want somebody with a couple of years of experience, but not so much that they're ingrained in what they're doing. But and each situation is unique. But I think that's the challenge also in hiring people. But you hire for the skills that you can't teach. You can't teach fire in the belly. You can't teach integrity. You can't teach all the things you want. And one of the great things that I did about, I don't know, I lose track of time, it was at least 15 years ago, is I was trying to figure out how do we clone our best clients. And I was trying to figure out, like, what are the similarities for our very top clients? And I kind of came up with this list. I said, generally, they're big thinking. They're generally loyal. They appreciate our expertise. They reciprocate, and they're not interested in transactional relationships. They're interested in transformational relationships. And I probably came up with one or two others like that were pretty common to the top clients. And I couldn't figure out how I could turn that into. I couldn't make heads or tails of that, of what I would do with that information. And then about a year or two later, it kind of dawned on me, that's who we are. That we attract the people that we want, that people that are interested in transactional relationships are not going to find their way to us. And I would say the same thing getting to know you guys as well. You don't do well or don't even onboard people that are transactional. You want people that are all in, because we want to make a difference in the lives of the people we touch.
Yeah, this has been excellent. So we always like to ask a couple questions here, Mark, as we wrap it up and let you get on your day. So we don't, knowing that hindsight's always 20/20, and I've heard people say they try not to look backwards too long, and that's understandable. But we could all look back and say there's things that we wish we would have known, or that if we would have known, we would have done things differently or had a redo. Like, what would you look back on if there's anything you could change along your journey or do differently? What would it be?
I would say, I used to say two things. Now it would be one. But what I used to say is, I wish if I had met the right woman, I would have had not two kids, I would have had 4 or 5. And now with Lisa, I have 5. So that regret has gone away. And believe me, our family, that if you read the forward to my latest book, I wrote a jingle to the Brady Bunch theme song to our family.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so with the 5 kids, I would, if you didn't know, I would ask you to tell you which kid is mine and which kid is Lisa, because I will tell you, I yell at them all equally. I do not spare any child. Regardless of your last name, you get yelled at. But I think the other piece of the puzzle is, I wish I didn't worry so much in my 20s or 30s and 40s. That I think I spent a lot of time. I was always worried about money. I was worried about things being taken. I had all these like worries that were there. And the idea is, I did spend some time that I could have used productively, or I used some time that I could have used for relaxation, that I worried too much. And I think by the time I got to maybe my late 40s or so, sort of a light bulb went on, and I just stopped worrying about things. Those things. And I almost wish, if I went back to myself, I wish, we spent a lot of nights worrying about stuff that just didn't even happen. And in fact, the worrying was probably worse than if the bad thing actually happened. Mm-hmm. And so, I just, that's the thing I probably would do over again.
That's good. That's a good one. Let's end on this one, Mark. So a lot of business owners out there, you talk to a ton of business owners every single year, right? Somebody out there starting a business right now, could be a dentist, could be whomever, right? Starting a business right now. What's the best piece of advice you're going to give them that you've learned across your entire journey?
I think I said it earlier. To me, I think the number one skill of an entrepreneur, or number one thing that an entrepreneur has to do, is to protect his or her confidence. And I think the idea is that when you lose your confidence, you lose everything. Being a decent high school basketball player, when I was confident, it seems like every shot went in. And, like it's almost like, like even myself, that first shot or two went in, and then they all went in the whole game. And maybe the first shot didn't go in, and you lose a little bit of confidence, and you don't have as good a game. And I think that's an analogy to life, in that you can't allow other people to control how you feel about yourself. You've got to continue to protect and believe in yourself. But I think it's also, you've got to surround yourself with people who believe in you. So if you were starting a dental practice, I'd want to know, who are the people around you? Who are the people you surround yourself? Who's your accountant? Who's your CPA? Who are the person? And does that person believe in what you're doing? And does that person have the wisdom and the knowledge and the belief to help you get forward? Remember, when you're starting a dental practice, it's not like you're at Apple or Tesla, where you got a board of directors.
Yeah.
Your board of directors, it's your CPA, maybe it's your attorney, maybe it's somebody like myself, maybe it's a consultant, maybe it could be any one of a dozen different people. But who are you surrounding yourself with that are going to give you, who believe in you? And I always say, like, my superpower is, you have to see people where they are. it's ridiculous to see people not where they are. So you have to see them where they are. But I think my superpower is to believe in people so viscerally that they believe in themselves.
Hmm.
And so to give them the opportunity that you could be that sounding board, to give them the opportunity that the stuff that they only think to themselves, they can say out loud. And I know your clients do that to you. To me, that's a good representation that it's the right fit.
Yeah.
When they're asking you questions and saying things to you that doesn't have to do with taxes or accounting or for me about money or financial services or wealth or stuff like that. It has to do with what that inner core of somebody where you have a relationship where they just have, you don't need a lot of people, Jared. You need one or two people, and you hope to have more that just believe in you and believe in you so well that you know you can't fail. And
Yeah.
that's the business we're in. That's the business.
That's good. Mark, we appreciate you, man. I mean, you are definitely good at what you do. I love how close you get with your clients regarding knowing their business in and out. Key strategist. I mean, you've said it. That's what you are, working with those entrepreneurial minded people. So I know you're a busy guy.
I would just say one last thing on that is
Yeah.
I think when you're talking about putting that board together, you
Yeah.
also though, and I appreciate everything you said, but you also have to play well with others, meaning what that dentist needs is he needs a team that's functioning. Not that means everybody has to agree with each other every time,
Right.
but you want people that are there, not trying to, to try to work as a team for that client's best interest. And, sometimes a dysfunctional team is when somebody has to be, I only play quarterback. Now, sometimes you got to be a wide receiver or the pulling guard or the placeholder.
Yeah. Or the water boy on the bench, right? That's where I would be, maybe in the football team. But what about Bill? Bill's probably a star football player here.
Not at all.
But no, Mark, I appreciate it, man. I know you're a super busy guy. Finding time in your schedule to sit down with us, this has been fantastic. We appreciate you as always, man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys. You're the best.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye-bye.